So I'm going to go ahead and take the money and run, TJ.
I'll win every fight.
Rookie Revolution.
This is a game!
The first season of the new spin-off, The Challenge All-Stars, has just concluded, and it was revolutionary in more ways than one. Without spoiling too much before we even start the review, we have to take a moment to take in what just happened. We got all of these vets and OGs back on our screens. I don't know about you, but I never thought anything like this would ever happen. But the real question has to be, was this season any good? Who was the most shocking return? Who improved the most? What were the pros and cons? We will get into all of that and so much more today on Rookie Revolution's review and awards of The Challenge All-Stars Season 1. There's a lot to cover, so let's get started. So first I will be reviewing the twists, the theme, the editing, the story, and the history. And these will all be explained as I go over them, but first I want to go over the history. I have talked about this at length in my cast review videos, but I will do a quick overview of how this season came to be. Mark Long one day on Twitter posted that no one could take the time off to do the show because of how long it films for. Then Mark got the idea to start a Twitter campaign for a 2-week-long old school only challenge, and he dubbed it We Want OGs. This whole thing blew up. Mark got so many OGs to agree and was posting every day for hype. Well, it worked. Mark got a meeting with BUNIM MURREY, and the rest is history.
It's totally surreal. From the idea to inception and having it go so quick during the pandemic, getting these awesome cast members together.
Thank you for doing all that you've done. It's an amazing feat to get this done.
Now moving on to the theme. So obviously the theme was the first of its kind. Well, unless you think season 1 titled Road Rules All-Stars was similar, which it really wasn't. This season brought back players who were all established vets and legends. Well, most of them at least, which I'll get to soon. But since most of these old school players have serious careers now, this was a way to get them all to come back and compete. So it was proposed as a 2-week challenge, which is a reasonable time length, although it ended up going over. But on the main show, we barely get to see any OGs at all, and this being all OGs, the theme was really genius. Now, the real theme was very throwback based. They brought back a lot of the old dailies and classic eliminations. They brought up past beef and relationships.
My tenderoni.
Tenderoni. Nehemiah.
Jewish?
You're black. What point are you trying to make?
Right now, like going and like, oh yeah.
You are the trash L you were, and you're always gonna be trash. I'm not gonna hear.
I felt so terrible after. I just wanted to apologize to you face to face.
They just really made it feel like an old school season. The house I'll include here, the house was just plain gorgeous. It is one of my favorite houses of all time on the challenge. The way it was decorated with all of their helmets, their names and quotes, the past season plaques, it was really a spectacle. The backyard as well was just breathtaking. Nothing in this house disappointed, and I think most of the cast would attest to that. Along with the voting area, all of the wooden figures of them looked incredible, and when they would get eliminated, they would be blacked out, which was straight masterful decorating. So now we are moving on to the twists of the season.
I think it's time for a twist. You all know how I like twists.
Obviously, we got an individual game to start out with, which was great to really let these returning players shine and see what capabilities they still had. My favorite twist though, and the one I was so stoked to see come back, was the return of the life shields. The life shield was always my favorite back in the day, and I hope with this they implement it more on the main show, but basically think of a Big Brother power of veto. It's basically a way to save yourself after you are voted in or lose yourself into elimination. Although in this season the opposite gender got the life shield, and if they used it, a house vote would ensue for the replacement. The only other real notable twist of the season was the fact that about midway through the season, the eliminations became partner based, meaning that you were never safe no matter if it was a guy or girl day, unless you won the daily, which I think they only did this because filming was running behind schedule, but it did work and it made for some cool politicking. So all in all, this season's format was very simple and bare bones, which after some of the recent messes of formats we have gotten, this was a very welcome change. Now for the story. I brushed on this a little already, but the storylines this season really felt like they were natural and not forced, with a few exceptions. Sela and Anissa. That was just really petty.
Anissa and I
Hi. We've been very good friends for many, many years.
2 seconds later.
I'm not your friend no more. Best friend forever out the goddamn window.
Losing Anissa as a friend does not affect me.
Lots of past beef came up from 15 years ago like it happened yesterday, and some of it was for really stupid reasons, or reasons everyone forgot.
Stella, you control the lifesaver. Do you want to use that lifesaver? Save Ace.
I specifically remember watching the challenge, Ace saying, I quote,
Stella's dead weight for our team. I'm glad she's bowing out now.
who's dead weight now?
Want to save Ace or what?
No.
We got some big friendship ending implosions, we got some nice endings, and a lot of nice callbacks to past occurrences.
Alright, don't take care. Hope to see you never.
We got a lot of redemptions, we got a lot of fails, there's a lot of hilarious moments. There's nothing really bad to say about the storylines this season, although one thing I will say is that the storyline of Kendall and how the house treated her, I just don't get nor agree with. And now we have the editing. I have to say straight up, the music is the best there has ever been on a challenge season. Like when they all walked in the house and the boys are back in town played, we got Never Gonna Get It during trivia, we got Hold On for John A, Here I Go Again, which is one of my favorite songs ever, I Will Always Love You, I'm the Only One, Waterfalls. What I'm trying to say is go and download the playlist of music from the season because it was absolutely perfect and you can tell MTV/Paramount spent some money to get these songs. Another amazing thing was it being uncensored. Listen, you might think hearing the occasional F-bomb and such won't add much, but I promise you it does. Not being restricted in what you hear is literally a night and day difference, and now I hope they release every season uncensored. The cinematography was incredible, the way the episodes were spliced together, the way everything was just so seamless and not hard to track like double agents, it was just the biggest breath of fresh air for the challenge in a while. Although since this season is on a streaming service, I don't know why it was limited to 40-minute episodes. They could have showed so much more. I think that's my biggest complaint with the editing. Now we will be moving on to the best and the worst daily challenges, but honestly, this is completely based on personal preference, but in my opinion, the best daily challenge goes to, and this might be just based on the comedy factor, but we have Melt Away. And this also might be because of nostalgia, but this challenge was hilarious. What you had to do was do whatever you could to melt the ice with your team to get shields out, and then you list the challenges in chronological order. Solid concept. In Sexes 2, you could not use any bodily fluids to melt the ice, but now everything was up for grabs, and it was awesome. People were peeing and doing everything they could, but honestly, it didn't really work. No one could melt the ice, so they just ended up giving them a hammer to get it done quicker. The MVP of the challenge has to go to Arissa since she tried to summon the sun.
I reach up and I visualize the sun breaking through, then I ask it graciously to work with me, and then I call on also my ancestors. Y'all gotta help me break these clouds open.
I mean, I admire her trying. Just the noises and how people were having fun made this challenge the funnest to watch. Now for the worst daily challenge. I actually didn't really dislike any of these, but I guess Escape the Room had the most boring concept. All you had to do was solve a puzzle before the floor below you disappeared. It wasn't really thrilling to watch, but it wasn't the worst thing ever. I still enjoyed it, and that goes to show that this season really had no bad dailies. It was a really hard puzzle, given that Big Easy was the only one to complete it, which is ridiculous. Now moving on to the best and the worst eliminations. For the best, again, this is probably an unpopular opinion, but the pole wrestle of Ace and Laterian is now one of my favorites of all time.
You guys gonna have a good old-fashioned pole wrestle. What?
Obviously they were both hungry, but for different reasons. Ace was angry he was in the position he was in, and Laterian was looking for redemption and nothing else. Well, Laterian literally killed Ace. He slammed him over and over again and apparently broke some of Ace's ribs. It was a massacre, but it was a good kind of massacre. I thoroughly enjoyed it. For the worst elimination, it's weird because I actually really like this one, but it's real goofy, and it's going out of a tile played by Tech vs Nehemiah. And all you had to do was race around a structure and punch out your colored holes. You then race back to the start. This whole thing would take about 5 seconds, but the twist is that you need to eat a Carolina Reaper, which I could just smell one and die, so this added a big difficulty level.
How you feeling? That's the best answer I've ever heard. Thank you for that.
Compared to every other elimination this season, this one just felt odd. And honestly, I just felt bad for Tech and Nehemiah. Let's talk about the final. So the final was in stages. It wasn't like a straight up race, no stopping. There were always breaks in between, and you had a new partner each stage. Now, I actually like how they did this. Also, they had a point system where in each checkpoint, first place is 5 points, second place is 4 points, and so on. Whoever had the most points in the end of the final wins the 500k. So let's talk about the stages. Stage number 1 was a puzzle and kayaking, a challenge staple. Nothing to complain about here. There was a purge, but it was necessary due to the amount of players left. Checkpoint 2, you had to build a bicycle and ride it to the next checkpoint and solve a puzzle, which was again very solid. Stage 3, you had to do a run tethered to your partner, but now here's where it gets good. Just like the elimination I just talked about, they all had to eat 2 Carolina Reapers, then run to the next checkpoint. I don't know who in production loves seeing them die from spice, but I mean, it's entertaining. Everyone was just losing it in this stage. Checkpoint 5 was all eating gross food. Like honestly, it was super gross and it was a huge amount of it. I don't even know what the food was, but most of them struggled. It was also an overnight portion. So in the morning, the final leg was a race up a mountain. Thank you to Challenge Stats for letting me use his graphic. Go follow him. But here is where the points and placements are listed, and here's where it lied in the end. As you can see, it was basically a race between Darrell and Yes up the mountain, which, yes, no one was going to beat him. I mean, look at him here.
I decided to stop, strip off some clothing, strip off my pants, strip off my shirt. Darrell doesn't take his clothes off. I know he's gonna overheat.
But also, you gotta give credit to John A. and Kellyanne. They killed it. I do have a problem with something I will get to in a jiff, but I think this was an entertaining final all in all. It was the perfect difficulty, and also TJ on a horse just made it even better.
TJ, first time on a horse? Nah, man, come on. I do this. Oh.
Now, you all know I love reunions, but I hated this one. I understand it's COVID, but not inviting some people there like Nehemiah, Katie, and especially Kendall, who was a huge part of the season, and her not being there to defend herself when everyone except Kellyanne was coming for her, it just wasn't fair. Again, I don't understand why everyone didn't like Kendall. I wasn't there, so I can't speak on it as much because I don't know, but she seemed perfectly pleasant on the edit, and I've been a fan of Kendall since the Inferno one, but the actual reunion just did not do anything for me. Maria Menino being back was actually the best part. The nostalgia with her hosting was great, and Nate Burleson did an excellent job co-hosting as well. My biggest problem though, and let me start with saying I had no problems with Hisela during the season, she was great there, but here, oh my gosh, she couldn't go 2 seconds without saying a word. She talked about anything and everything, even if it had nothing to do with her.
For the record, I was the first invited. Easy, allow me to talk.
She was petty and she was very entitled. She acted like she was the biggest legend on the stage when this was the first season she did any good on, really. Don't get me wrong, I really do like Hisela, but I just found her hard to take on this reunion. No offense, of course. But through and through, the reunion just didn't have any substance. Looking through all of my notes, I realized I have a lot of cons, so here they are. This is a little one, but why on the team challenges did the team colors need to be copper, silver, and such? Why couldn't it be more colorful colors? I don't know, it kind of bothered me a little bit and it made it harder to keep track of the teams. But now here are some more serious cons. I said this early, but why only 40-minute episodes? These aren't on a network and can theoretically be as long as the material they have. I would have loved seeing more house house dynamics. Maybe for season 2 they can make the episodes longer. Another one is the season felt really rushed by the end. The season was meant to be 2 weeks and obviously it went over, but because of that, they only did a handful of eliminations and started the final with 12 people, which, I mean, sometimes 8 people running the final is too much. They could have done a purge, which I guess they kind of did, but maybe they could have had better time management so it didn't feel so rushed at the end. But again, I don't know all the circumstances, so I can't really comment on that. And finally, the biggest con, and one I still just can't believe they still do, is one winner. I mean, it's just not fair. I'm going to show what Kellyanne had to say about this. And I agree with it for the most part. Unless it's the Vendettas final, it just isn't fair 9 times out of 10. It's a $500K cash prize, so why couldn't they split it? I'm sure the winner would have been happy with $250K or $200K, and give some to the 2nd and 3rd place, which is always nice. I think Kellyanne and or John A very much deserve to win along with Yes. And that's my biggest con. I really hope that they're done with the one winner. Or at least perk it so it's fair. Oh, and also some players I don't feel were quite OGs like Jemmy and such, but I don't mind it as much as some other fans do.
One thing about this game is you don't have to be a champ to be legendary, and I'm one of those players.
Most of my video was praising this season, so instead of rehashing stuff I have already said, I'm going to include it in the next category, and the best, the funnest, my favorite part of the video. So here's how it works. I will show an award, show the nominees, and go over it in a speed round kind of way. These are superlatives and awards all mixed together in a really cool and fun way. And again, these are all personal opinions, so let's get started with the funniest moment of the season. The nominees are the failures of the first daily challenge, Katie breaking her face again, and Arissa quitting. And the winner is Katie breaking her face again. On Cutthroat, Katie fell on a heights over water challenge and got a gnarly black eye. Well, they were playing trivia and she fell in the water, and the chances of this happening are crazy, but she hit her face hard again and had blood dripping out of her nose. Katie got scared of water later on in this season, and I don't blame her. Water needs to cool it on Katie, but the way it happened again was honestly incredible. For most shocking return, the nominees are Tech, Hisela, and Yes. And the winner is Tech. Tech hasn't been on the show since the 3rd season. It's been a long time. And especially with him being a successful actor, seeing him come back was quite the shock. It was a good shock though. I mean, he is hilarious and was an absolute joy to have on the season.
Welcome to the challenge, the senior edition. Today looks like recess at the old folks home.
For the biggest disappointment, the nominees are Ruthie, Ace, and Alton. And the winner is Alton. Okay, I might get hate for this, but this isn't the first time he has been disappointing. Most people thought Battle of the Seasons was a fluke, as well as me, but I'm starting to think that it wasn't. Back in the day, Alton would have flew through this competition and won, but he didn't do spectacularly well in any of the dailies or really stand out. I think he's just lost his competitive edge. I don't think this takes him down in the overall rankings, but he isn't the same guy he was on the Gauntlet 1 and 2. I really don't know what happened other than him getting a bit older.
Break now.
Alton cannot catch his breath, and I don't understand why Alton is starting to lean on me. Get off of me, Alton.
There's no way that this perfect physical specimen is on his freaking knees, and here I am 50 years old doing it.
For the most improved, the nominees are Latarian, John A, and Hisela. The winner is Latarian. I mean, it's night and day. This guy was the OG popcorn muscles. He just could not compete. But now he is hanging with the big dogs. I think it might be the change in attitude. Latarian is much more serious and no nonsense, and it seems to have worked. He won his pole wrestle and absolutely killed the Connect 'em All challenge. I'm just so happy Latarian is finally competing on the level we all knew he could. For the best nomination moment, the nominees are Ace calling everyone monsters, Yes's coffee speech, and Kendall's plea. The winner is Yes's coffee speech. I don't really know what it is about it, but man was this speech absolutely captivating. It was moving in a weird kind of way. Like, it was beautiful, and it saved him, so anyways, here's a clip of it.
I just want all you to know that my relationship with you starts every day. I don't have alliances with anybody. I wake up every day thinking when I look in your eyes, make coffee with you, eat breakfast with you, that's the alliance of the day. It ain't about what we used to do 10 years ago. It's about what we did this morning, and hopefully I was able to build a friendship that lasts.
It made me speech yes, pun intended. And the last award is my MVP of the season. The nominees are Darrell, Mark, and Kendall. And the winner is Kendall. If you need a reason, just rewatch the whole season. I think you can all tell I am very fond of this season. I mean, this season had so much to like. To name a few, it had a very likable cast, it brought back my favorite twist in the life shield, it had good editing, everything flowed well. I think for some of my cons as well, we have to remember that this filmed in the middle of a pandemic. It's insane that we got this season at all. Even without a pandemic, this whole concept seemed like a pipe dream most superfans just lust over. The things I dislike, except for the one winner, I feel are very minimal and I think will be worked on or even fixed in a season 2. I really enjoyed this season, guys. Like, that's an understatement. This season was what the challenge needed, and it reminded us of how it was and how it still can be. The letter grade this season is getting an A-, while the number grade is going to get a 9 out of 10. Honestly, this season was near perfect, and I will be watching again and again. I cannot wait to see what they do for season 2. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. Follow me on all the social medias. Links are in the description. And until next time, as always, take care.